Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Sick in the Six Shot Gaming Channel, and this is another Demon Slayer Hinokami or Hinokami. I don't know however you say it, but Hinokami Chronicles video for you today, and this is going to be a 11 in-depth tips to help you get better in Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles. And this is kind of like my Jump Force. It's structured kind of the same way of the Jump Force video that I did a couple years back when I gave you 12 tips to get better. But this is going to be 11 tips, and it's more on the lengthy side, but please watch the whole video. It's going to help you out immensely and improve your game. And by the end of this video, I guarantee you will be a better Demon Slayer player. But anyways, if this video helps you out, please smash the like button. I greatly appreciate it. And let's get started with those tips. Also, make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. But anyways, let's get started. So the first tip we're going to go over is team composition. Team composition in team-based fighting games is very, very important because team building is a thing in these type of games. Now, this game is not that much prevalent like it is in other games, but there are certain characters that can help out other characters in spaces that the other character lacking. You may have a character like Inosuke who struggles getting in, so he may need the assist to help him out with neutral or his pressure, and Rengoku, he doesn't need the assist for damage because he does a whole bunch of damage by himself, but he may need the assist to help him out in neutral as well. Then you have a character like Shinobu who does the best damage, so she may need the assist to help her out with damage, or since she takes more damage than other characters in the game, she may need the assist for a defensive reason, so you could choose the assist to help her out in neutral when it comes to defense and so on and so forth. Then you got a character like Tanjiro who does really good damage by himself and doesn't need a assist for combos, but he may need it for neutral. And same thing for Nezuko and Odaraki. So basically, building the right team is very important in this game, and I'm gonna show you some examples of that. So Zenitsu doesn't really do that much damage by himself when you do his real basic combos. You probably have to dump in more meter to get more damage with Zenitsu. But if you add an assist into his gameplay when it comes to his combos, you can get really good damage, as you can see, for not that much resources either. And once you get the knockdown, you could use the rest of your meter for Oki situations and so on and so forth. So having a proper team comp when it comes to putting together certain situations is very important, because Gyu is very good for that situation with his water wheel assist and with his dragon assist. But when it comes to Odaraki and his waterfall assist, you can't really get much off of the waterfall after his assist hits. But Odaraki does have a pinwheel assist as well, which helps out, and it is actually better than Gyu's assist. But now it's like you're only playing Odaraki no matter how good his pinwheel is, only for one assist, when Gyu has two really good assists compared to Odaraki, at least when it comes to combos. And then here's another situation where Shinobu's assist is really good for lockdown, but it's not really the best for combos. And now you can still make it work for combos, but the time is really different compared to how easy it is with a pinwheel assist and so on and so forth. And look at this situation where you have to really work on your timing. Now you can make it work, but it's pretty much more simpler to go with a assist that gels with that character playstyle or how you play with that character a lot more than trying to match the timing and so on and so forth. But it all comes down to your playstyle and how you play the character. But for me personally, the way I play with Zenitsu, Shinobu assist wouldn't be the ideal for me, especially how I like to get hits with my combos with Zenitsu and so on and so forth. Odaraki to me will help out my playstyle more when it comes to playing Zenitsu, and Gyu definitely helps out my playstyle more when it comes to Zenitsu, because he has two assists that helps out with Zenitsu and his combos. But moving on, we're going to talk about tip number 2, and tip number 2 is movement. Movement is very important in Demon Slayer. You cannot be stagnant in this game. This game is very fast paced, and with assists, and you have a super dash mechanic and so on and so forth, you gotta know how to move in this game. To me, the very best movement is when you do a jump into a side evade. You recover very quickly off of this, and it's very good. So to show you, this is a normal jump, and a normal jump, it's okay. It's not that good. You have some type of recovery when you land. And then this is side evade. The side evade is pretty good when it comes to avoiding stuff, but acting out of the side evade on a grounded side evade is not the greatest because you can't act directly out of it. You have to wait for the recovery. Then you have your super dashes. The super dashes, you can stop all momentum with attacks. You could jump, you could block, so on and so forth. So that's good with the super dash. So every character movement is not the same. Shinobu is more floaty with her jump. So the jump evade technique that you could do with most of the characters in the game is not that great with Shinobu, but her evades on the floor are quicker and recover faster than other characters, but her jump evade is not the greatest. So this method wouldn't be great for Shinobu as when it comes to constantly doing it over and over and over, but it would be better for other characters. So going back to the jump evade is very, very good when it comes to movement. You can avoid a lot of stuff. You can avoid assists, you can avoid super dashes. It makes you hard to hit and so on and so forth when it comes to a jump evade. And when you find yourself in situations where you just need to reset back to neutral, a jump evade, you make the opponent whiff and you can super dash right in and punch your opponent just like so. It's very, very good. I'm just showcasing clips of me just using my movement to punish the opponent. The jump evade is so very, very good when your opponent commits to like an attack or assist. One, it's outright avoids a lot of assists, period, because the assist goes to where you was and not to where you are. So you can keep on avoiding assists with the jump evade. It's really, really good. And then when it comes to super dashing, it's the same thing when your opponent super dash at you. Your opponent can only super dash to where you was, not where you are. So when you constantly using your movement to evade, you avoid a lot of stuff, and you can easily punish your opponent if they whiff for normals with a stop into a super dash. So this type of movement in Demon Slayer is very, very good. So moving on to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is how to properly utilize your assist. Assist is a very important mechanic in this game, as it is in almost all fighting games when it has assist. And it's many different ways you can use your assist. One of the ways to use the assist is to help you approach your opponent. Another way is to help lock down your opponent while your opponent's blocking. Also, another way is to, if you whiff a normal, you call out assist to help keep you safe. You can also call out assist when your opponent approaches you, and if they approach you with a straight on style, they will get hit with assist. You can also use your assist on your knockdown, as you can see, so it stops your opponent from applying Oki pressure on you. And to use your assist on your knockdown, you have to wait until you're able to roll and use the assist button. Once you're rolling from your knockdown, you're able to use your assist, and it can mess up your opponent game plan when it comes to wake up. This method is a really good tool to use on your knockdown, because even if your opponent uses their assist on your knockdown to pressure you, they still have to watch out for your assist, so they can't use their game plan exactly how they want. And the best case scenario is if they're not paying attention, they will get hit with your assist and you can start a full combo just like so. Another thing is if you press your assist too early on your knockdown, then you will get an escape if you have the meter instead of having your assist come out. So just keep that in mind. You also have the option to switch in your assist character to your point character directly by holding the assist button. Now, to me, this is not the most optimal, but it's still an option. Another thing you can do when it comes to character switching is you can switch mid-combo. Now, to me as well, this is not the most optimal thing to do, but it's still an option you have. So you can do combos like this. Let's just say you want to get your character out safely. You could do it in the middle of a combo and do something like this to get your character out safely. Me personally, I'd rather, if I do hit my opponent with a combo, I'd rather finish my combo out and use my assist on my opponent's wake up than to switch mid-combo. That's just me personally, but if that playstyle fits you, you could do a character switch mid-combo as well. But this is how I will use my assist. Using the assist on your opponent's wake up is really, really good. Even in a situation when your opponent does punish you, your assist will cover your back and end up forcing your opponent into a situation like you just saw. Now, a really good time to use a character switch is in a situation where your opponent is blocking, where you could do a mix-up like this. That is a really good time where you could do the character switch. You can extend your block pressure that you normally couldn't extend in ways with character switching. So that's really, really good. Another way to use character switch is using a move that upskirts the screen, and you can mask your character switch within that move and catch your opponent off guard, just like so. This is actually a pretty good tactic to use. Now, use a move like Waterfall where it's very hard to see, character switch and super dash your opponent and catch your opponent off guard, and that's a very, very good way to use the character switch. Now, moving on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is learn how to approach your opponent properly. Approaching your opponent's game is kind of difficult when, especially in neutral, when you're far out, because the stages are so big and you have many type of defensive tools. You have a parry, and you have a armor moves, and so on and so forth. So you can't be very direct when it comes to approaching your opponent. You have to learn to mix up the ways you approach your opponent. Because if you too straightforward with your approach and just super dash at your opponent all day, your opponent can easily parry you or use an armor move to punish you, and you're going to be taking damage. Now, when you super dash your opponent, you can't stop and block. So double super dash and stop and then super dash again can catch your opponent off guard. It throws them off guard because they trying to react to what you're doing. But when you're mixing it up like this, then you catch your opponent off guard because they just reacted to initial super dash, and they're not going to react to the stop and then super dash. So stopping, so super dash, stop, super dash is a good way. You can also super dash jump, super dash side evade, and so on and so forth. There's many different ways you could mix up approaching your opponent. Another way that you can approach your opponent is using assist. You could call the assist out and chase behind the assist, or you could super dash your opponent, and while you're super dashing, you're calling the assist out, and your opponent might try to like do something like armor move or parry you, and the assist will catch them off guard. And even if you do find yourself in a situation where you super dash your opponent and you called the assist out already, even if you get hit, the assist will hit your opponent and you can continue in the combo just like so. So that's really, really good. So using your assist to approach your opponent is really, really good. To me, the better of the two is super dash your opponent and then calling the assist behind your super dash. That's really, really good. But yeah, learning how to approach your opponent the proper way is very, very important, because if you just super dashing just willy-nilly at your opponent, you're going to get punished. So these tips that I just told you about is really, really good, especially using your assist to help you approach your opponent, because you can always stop short and use the assist to get the hit and continue the combo just like so. So that's really, really good. And if your opponent blocks, you can apply your mix-up like this, which is really, really good as well. So moving on to tip number 5 is how to use the super dash and how to counterplay it. So super dash is very, very good in this game. It is plus on block. So if your opponent press buttons after a block super dash, they will get beaten out. But there's ways to get by this by using armor moves or using a parry or a push block and so on and so forth. So this is when the RPS mind games come in when it comes to super dash your opponent and so on and so forth, because you can be parried, but then you can stop short and bait the parry and punish your opponent just like so. So the mind games when it comes to super dash and your super dash being blocked and so on and so forth is endless. So I can't spend too much time on that. But what I want to talk about is that super dash does a good amount of guard damage. It takes 4 super dashes, block super dashes, to break your opponent's guard. So I advise you to start building block strings around your super dash and take advantage that it breaks your opponent's guard. So you could do a block string like this, super dash your opponent, start the block string, keep the pressure going with the assist, and then super dash at the end to break your opponent's guard. So moving on from there, we're going to move on to tip number 6. And tip number 6 is how to properly push block. So push blocking in this game is very accessible. You do it by holding while you're blocking. You just flick the analog stick forward and you can push block. But there's a precise time to push blocking, because if you push block incorrectly, you can easily get punished just like this. So you have to be on point with your push block. And there's a lot of stuff you can do at the push block. You can push block and do an armor move like this. You can push block and do a invincible special move. You can push block and parry. You just have to be very on point on when you push block, because if you push back and try to go back on the offense and you push back too early, you can get put in a situation like this. So that's really, really bad. Retaliating off of a push block could get you in trouble. So you have to be very on point and know exactly when to push block in your opponent's block string. But there's nothing wrong with just push blocking and just running away and resetting back to neutral. So moving on to tip number 7. Tip number 7 is learning how to build block strings to deal with certain things like push block and so on and so forth. So since push blocking, if you're used correctly, is very, very strong, you gotta learn how to build your block string to deal with push blocking, right? So the best way, my advice is what you should do is if your opponent ends up blocking, do a couple hits, maybe 1 to 2 hits into one of your special moves that is forward advancing that will chase down your opponent. This will lock down your opponent, and then you add in the assist core if you have it to keep your opponent even more locked down to extend your block pressure and hopefully to break their guard. Now to show an example, it takes multiple push blocks to push me fully out after I start this block string, but it can be punished. It's not foolproof if you don't cover it with an assist. But if I do the same block string and cover it with an assist, my opponent cannot punish, and I can start whatever I want from there. So moving on, tip number 8 is learning how to parry. Parrying is very important in this game, especially if your opponent has a very straightforward approach. You need to learn how to parry. So parrying in this game is very, very good for a few reasons. Even though it's a gamble and it's more so a guess, it's really, really good because it gives you a green combo. A green combo basically means that you get to do way longer combos that you normally couldn't do. There's only a few characters in the game that has moves that could start off a green combo, but parries automatically start off green combos in this game. Now, you are taking a risk when you're parrying, and you could be punished if your opponent baited out just like so. But if you do hit the parry, the reward is really, really good. You get a green combo, which could give you more damage, which is really, really good. There's just certain situations in this game where you know your opponent's going to be aggressive. Those are the best times to do the parry. Like a situation like this, if you know your opponent likes to push block and start pressing buttons directly after a push block, then you could parry and punch your opponent just like so. And all the other situations I showed in this segment when it comes to parrying are moments where you have opportunities to parry your opponent. So go study those situations. So moving on to tip number 9. The tip number 9 is how to properly escape your opponent combos. Also, how to punish your opponent for escaping you. So the best and most efficient way that I found out to escape combos in a game is when your opponent has your combo, wait for them to do a move that has a lot of recovery, and you could escape the combo and super dash your opponent because they still stuck in recovery and punish them correctly. Another thing is, no matter how low your health is and you feel like you're automatically going to lose this round, so what's the point of escaping? You still might want to escape, because once you escape, but even if you don't, your assist meter refills back to 100% by the beginning of the next round. So even if you die, you still get all of your assist meter in the beginning of the next round. And I'm showcasing that right now, that I used to escape, try to make a comeback, but it didn't work out, and I still get 100% meter in the beginning of the next round. Now, whenever your opponent escapes you, you go always cancel out of whatever you're doing and super dash at your opponent to punish your opponent escape. It just depends on the move that you're canceling out of. But if you're on point, you could easily punish your opponent's escape. And at this moment, this is the ideal spot to cancel out your move to punish your opponent. And if you're on point with canceling out of whatever move you're doing, you could punish your opponent just like so. Your opponent will not be able to react or do anything if you're canceled at that ideal moment. And here's an example of canceling out of your attack a little bit too late. By the time they reach me, I already recovered and I'm able to punish with a parry. So you just gotta be a point when it comes to chasing down your opponent's escape. Some moves keep you with too much recovery and animation that even if you cancel out, you just don't recover enough in time and you can get punished yourself. Another way to tell that your opponent is about to escape your combo or anything assist related, whenever the assist button is being pressed, it shows in your opponent's assist meter, as you can see. Sometimes as an escapee, it's best to just block and find your way to get out of whatever situation you're in instead of running right back into your opponent. Another thing you could do right after you escape is use your boost. If they're touching you, you could get them off you, and it gives you back your assist meter as well, and we're gonna go more about that in the next tip. But one final tip about that is never use your ultimate to try to punish your opponent escape, because they can easily block out of the super dash and punish you. So moving on to tip number 10. Tip number 10 is not to waste your ultimate art. Your ultimate art is a very good comeback mechanic in this game, but a lot of people doesn't seem like they really know how to use the ultimate art. So we're gonna go over how to properly use it. A lot of things I see people doing, just throwing out the ultimate art, which is very, very bad. Also, I see a lot of people using the ultimate art early on in the beginning of the round. And me personally, I feel like your ultimate art should only be used if it's going to seal you the deal for the round. The reason why is because your ultimate art takes away all of your special meter, and it gets stronger the more levels it is, but it takes all of it away. So you should only use your ultimate art when you're about to win the match, and if you're going to use it outside of combos, only use it when you have a very strong read in your opponent like this. But going back to what the ultimate art does, the ultimate art, if you have 3 bars of your special bar, your special gauge, it's going to take all 3 bars, and you're going to be left with nothing if it hits, right? So if you don't win the round, then it's kind of a waste of using it, because now you have no resources at your end now, and your opponent can still make the comeback and potentially win the round on you. So it's better to just use your ultimate art to kill your opponent off instead of using it early on in the round to just get the early life lead, because your opponent can easily come back because they have more resources than you, and it's very easy to accumulate damage in this game. So here's a quick clip of a match, right, where my opponent was able to hit me with the ultimate art, but they did it very, very early in the round, and now the ultimate art consumed all of their special bar, and I was able to make a comeback and win the round, right? Now, the beginning of the next round, they don't have no bar a special gauge to work with at all, while I have 2 bars a special gauge. So at this point, I had the upper hand, while my opponent can't do anything at all, really. They can't go into a boost, a surge, or use another ultimate art, where I could use all 3, and I use that to my advantage to eat away in my opponent's life. And by the time my opponent gets even a bar, a meter to even do anything, I pop my surge, and it's pretty much game over at that point. So another tip within this segment is to never use your ultimate art when your opponent can escape the combo, because once your opponent escapes the combo, you're stuck in so much recovery that your opponent could super dash and punish you just like so. So that's not really a good idea. So moving on to the final tip of this video, and this is tip number 11, and this is how to properly use your surge and boost attack. These 2 mechanics is very, very strong, and if you're not using these mechanics at all in your gameplay, then you're playing Demon Slayer wrong. These 2 mechanics are very extremely strong. So one way you can use the boost mechanic is if you're being pressured very, very heavily, you could just use it as a get off me tool. If you're in a situation where your guard is about to break, you can pop the boost and get your opponent directly off of you. In addition to using this as a get off me move, you also get a attack boost as well, so that's really, really good, and you also gain access to your assist back. Now you have to be very, very meticulous at how you use this move, because if you don't use this move while you're actually in block stun, your opponent could punish you just like so. So moving on to the other effect of boost, if you use your assist and you use a boost, you get your assist directly right back. As you can see, it recovers 100% of your meter gauge. So that's very, very strong, almost kind of broken actually. So you have basically access to 4 assists if you do it like that. And if you go into your surge, which is another bar meter, you gain access to your assists again, and you potentially are able to use 6 assists within a span of 10 seconds if you have 2 bars a meter. So the reason you would go into surge, because it's a really good comeback mechanic, you gain additional attack boost on top of the boost attack boost, and you're able to keep utilizing your skill moves over and over and over and over without it taking away from your skill gauge meter at all. So you get your opponent in a combo and you could just keep on repeating the skill gauge moves over and over and over. Normally you're only able to use 5 skill moves in a row if you have 100% of your skill gauge, but when you're in Surge, you can do it infinitely, and you could do something like this to defeat your opponent very, very easily. You also get the effect in Surge that your opponent can't affect you with weak hits. They have to do some type of skill move or something like that to actually affect you. So if your opponent is overextending pressure, you could surge in the middle of that pressure and punish your opponent just like so, and it could potentially win you in a round. So that's pretty much all for today's video, and if you did enjoy the video, please smash the like button. I greatly appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Check out some of the past content. I have tons of content for you to enjoy. So if you want to subscribe, make sure to hit the subscribe bell and check the all tab to get notified every time I drop a new video for y'all. Also, if you want to help support the channel in any type of way at all, check the links below to go do so. But anyway, to hope all of you have a nice day. Peace.
Running, running, whoa. This is what we do. This is what we do. Running, yeah.